Welcome to another episode of Gauteng live, right and direct from the Union Buildings, Epitori Mahlangeng. We are coming to you on the backdrop of 702 Walk the Talk, a premier walk event, probably one of the top 4 walk events in the world. Over 40,000 people are here walking, celebrating the heritage, the tenacity and the spirit of our forebears, led by Nelson Mandela. 67 minutes of Nelson Mandela was celebrated through the 67-kilometer walk today, right here at the Union Buildings. I have the pleasure of welcoming, I don't know if you are still brand new, but here on Gauteng Live episode you are new, the Chief Marketing Officer for South African Tourism. Let's give a shout out and a round of applause to our Chief Marketing Officer at SAT. She's T, how are you?
Hello, Chief. The Chief of Gauteng. I'm good, and you?
No, we are good. You've just done 8-kilometer walk, went to 10 heritage sites, and now we're here at the Union Building. What does this mean, for our destination? We're at the seat of government. The biggest statue of Nelson Mandela in the world is just literally a few meters from us.
I think for me, the walk was significant. And why was it significant? Because as a destination brand, we are always driving, people must come and visit South Africa, they must see South Africa. However, there is a component that we need to drive, which is where you come in and I come in, is about how people should be tourists in their own cities and in their own provinces. So I live in Joburg, and for me to drive here and actually experience a city within my province has been absolutely fantastic. And that's what we want people to do. You want people to understand that tourism is in their backyard. It's not about taking a plane to Cape Town. Yes, we want them to do that, or take a plane to Durban. We want them to do that, or drive to Durban. But the small steps is really getting our community so that the ecosystem of tourism is driven within the communities that we are living in. So really just driving people from Soweto to come here and actually experience Pretoria and experience the beauty that Pretoria has to offer, and and engage with the the economy in Pretoria and drive tourism within the Pretoria city. And I think that's what this initiative manages to do for me, and I think that's what's important.
Talking about the tourism ecosystem, you've seen, all walks of people coming in, families, others coming in with their grandparents, others working for a particular cause. Yeah. How important is this ecosystem that includes wellness, that includes sports, that includes the creative, and how significant is this, and how does it get aggregated so that probably we're able to actually realize the true power of tourism? Because once you look at tourism in its own traditional way, I guess you start to lose the essence, and a platform of this, I guess it just brings in this ecosystem together.
I think the ecosystem is quite important, and I think in an economy like ours, where unemployment is high, and I do believe tourism is one of those sectors that will be the biggest employer in future. So I mean, as we walking here, and we you start to see people who are selling stuff, and people who are driving their own little economies within the economy. I think that's what tourism is all about, and people don't realize. I always say, when you leave your home in Soweto and go to Sandton, you are technically a tourist. And I think more education needs to be done on our side to educate people about what the ecosystem of tourism is, because I don't think people fully appreciate and fully understand what that ecosystem looks like. And then by doing that, you start to show and educate people around the opportunities within the ecosystem, because we can sit and say there are no jobs, but what tourism does, it gives you an opportunity to create a job in any form, shape or manner. And most importantly, it gives you an opportunity to create a job in probably something that you love, that you never realized. When you meet a millionaire and you're like, how did you get here? And they're like, I don't even know how it happened. I was taking a short left, but I ended right and I was here. So I think by educating people around what the ecosystem of tourism is all about and what the touch points of that are, like Gauteng Samagwinya Ekoneni is an ecosystem that contributes to tourism. So it's that education, I think, for me, that becomes important part of our of our marketing journey, because when people start to really understand it, and then people start to protect it, because again, we live in an economy where in a community where we say, akukho safe kunjani, but when people start to understand the impact of these little ecosystems that are existing in and around them, tourism, then they start to protect those ecosystems. And I think as a community, we and without putting down Amapoisa or anything like that, but when a community works, the job for police becomes very small, because when people truly understand the value of what is sitting in and around them, they protect it. And if they know the value that it's giving back to them, they protect it. And then the police don't really have a big job to do, because a safe community, a safe country starts at ground root. So if we build township tourism and we build rural tourism and we build that ecosystem and they see it as adding value to them, they protect that ecosystem. And then it all ladders up, and it becomes really an easy job of ultimately standing up and saying South Africa is the safest country in the world, and that's what we really want. And it has to be safe for us before it's safe for anybody else who's coming in. It's not about South Africa is safe for somebody who's coming into the country. It has to be safe for a Tembi around the corner. It has to be safe for a Baba who lives here. So I think tourism is I don't know if people see it, I see it like that. I think tourism is an engine room of changing a lot of societal narratives and the negatives that exist within our community. And I think we need to pull that lever of tourism as the driver that will change the narrative of our communities.
100%. I mean, the magnet, the glue that brings everything together.
It's a logical glue for me.
I mean, let's talk about. I always say to people, it's a classical example. Your hood in Vilakazi Street,
Soweto.
In Soweto, when somebody snatches a bag from a visitor, the community, the entire system there jumps, and they are the first one to apprehend that person, hand them over to the police, because they have seen the benefit of tourism. There's household where the artifacts are being sold, they've been able to take their child to school.
Yes.
So actually, when you are snatching the bag of the tourist, you are snatching bread
away from
and
my
food
mouth.
from their table.
Yeah.
So they will be the first one to apprehend you and hand you over to the police. How important is working together, with local structures and getting locals, whether in business but also around the entire ecosystem, understanding that is bread, this is money, and this has longevity, there's value to it. How important is it to mobilize all the partners around this, not just in Vilakazi Street, but in an event like this, which is also part of an ecosystem of tourism?
I think it's absolutely critical, and I think Vilakazi Street is quite a beautiful case study, because it's not theoretical. Because sometimes as business leaders, as brand managers, brand custodians, everything we talk about is quite, it's theoretical and it's up there. So for somebody who's living in a community where this thing should be impacting them, that unless we actually take projects like this, like 702, and you make sure that it actually impacts the community, and Usipo can say I benefited from it, you start to build trust around this thing works for all of us. And it's about development of, like, outside of 702, like Vilakazi Street, for example, exists outside of a 702 and all of that. And it's how do we build more Vilakazi Streets within Gauteng, within Eastern Cape, within Northern Cape, everywhere else. So we have to take what is working with Vilakazi Street and almost apply that same strategy everywhere else, because when it's tangible, you believe it. It's kind of, you never believe that you could be a president until you see a black president. So if we keep, in certain instances, like in other societies, it's very, the ecosystem is still very, owned by, white, like when you look at the private sector, they understand it because they own those particular, parts of the economy. But when we need to empower people, that's why I was talking about, if you actually sell this thing and people can start to see it as, there's no employment, but I can actually create my own here. And the youth, and get the youth into tourism, get women into tourism, get more of those people into tourism, then you start to, you build from there. And it becomes a domino effect. But if you don't start with a good foundation, in most of our sectors we build walls and foundation is not solid. Township, rural tourism is the foundation of this ecosystem, because that's where the volume comes from, that's where our people come from. So if you build that properly, it's easy to take the walls up.
100%. We are going to take a short left and just see how today's proceeding went through with thousands of people walking. We're gonna check out the clips of the people walking today, how it went about. The excitement was palpable. When we come back, we're gonna reflect on the legacy of Nelson Mandela and how this work was dedicated to the country's elder and statesman who unfortunately passed in 2013. Let's take a short lift.